they look at copyright as well as the rest of the educational field. So if you would make sure you sign in, and I'm going to try not to use all of your time, just give you about 5 minutes to get out of here and get to where you need to be, and then we'll go from there. All right, Ms. Chu, are we ready? All right. All right, so good morning, everyone. We know that copyright and educational values can sometimes be tricky and difficult to understand. Today I'm going to talk about the basics of educational fair use and guidelines, as well as those do's and don'ts that I just mentioned to you. To comply with NEAT as well, I've selected 2 standards that will go along with our presentation. NEAT standard number 2 and 3, both teacher pursues aligned professional learning opportunities to support instructional practice across the school community, and teacher follows policies, regulations, and procedures specific to role and responsibilities. If you think about it, our students do what we do, and so we really need to model for them correct copyright and educational fair use guidelines. I know we do a lot of things. I do it as well. Kind of that, well, no one saw me, and I'm just going to do it anyway. But we really need to show them. I mean, if you're taking something from someone else, we really need to put that copyright information on there. So let's begin our PowerPoint. So educational fair use, professional development presentation created to help you understand the do's and don'ts of this policy. Our objectives today, I've got 5 clear objectives. 1, just to identify the CCSD educational fair use and copyright policy. 2, identify and analyze at least 1 fair use regulation and copyright law. What is it? How does it work? And do I really have to follow it? Yes. Number 3, cite 4 examples of how to respect copyright materials. Number 4, describe how these regulations can support instructional practices in the classroom. And then the last one, identify 1 way to apply the newly learned information. It's great if you walk out of here with a head full of information, but are you going to use it? At least take 1 thing away that you can use. All right, moving on. So the importance of following the copyright law. I have 2 court cases. You can read them yourself. I'll summarize them. The first one was in California. A district had loaded illegal software. It was, oh, I have this software, I'll load it on your computer, your computer, your computer. Well, it became across the entire district that they loaded these software information pieces. The company eventually found out the district had to pull every single copy off of the computers, replace all of the copies, and then not only that, pay a fine. Their total ended up being $5 million for Los Angeles to be able to get everything back to the way it needed to be legally. So just by going here, let me share with you. Oh, and I'll share with you and with you and with you. Well, I shared with you, but then you're going to go share with 3 other people, and they're going to each share with 3 other people, and eventually it gets across the district. Now we've got illegal copies on computers, and that's not fair to the company who wants to make money off of selling their product. Another case was in 2004 in Texas. A teacher had a workbook that they wanted to copy from. So they made copies, and their colleagues wanted copies. So the chair made copies for his colleagues of this workbook. And then rather than go and purchase the workbooks, the colleagues made more copies of the workbook, passed them out to students, and said, here, go ahead and use these. Again, the publisher found out, the school district admitted, okay, this is what we did wrong, we know what we did wrong, we're going to have copyright training for everyone. But they also had to settle out of court, and they paid a large fine as well. Both to the publisher and other places that needed the money. So we just have to really be careful. I know sometimes it happens where I don't have enough books. Well, I'm just going to take this workbook and make copies. And you'll see as we get to it, consumables like that are typically not things that we should be copying. So just be careful when you're doing that. All right, so very quickly, and I'm going to time it. I've got my clock with me. 4 minutes. I want you to briefly recall your knowledge and understanding of what you know about educational fair use and copyright guidelines. Then I want you to work as a team real quick. Come up with 2 things that you already know about copyright, at least 1 to 2 things that you want to know about copyright, and then we'll regroup and we'll share it as a team. So I've got markers on your table. I've got a KWL chart set up for you at each table. Take 4 minutes real quick. What do you already know about copyright and educational fair use, and what do you want to know about it? And I will hopefully hopefully be able to answer your questions. All right, decide who's writing. I would say whoever's closest to A in the alphabet for first name, if you need help.
You. Yeah.
Just, yeah, well, what you want to know already, and then what you want to learn, and then we'll do learn last, what you already know.
Yeah.
This is what we know what we want.
Yep. So think about when you're pulling something
Yeah,
off the
give
internet,
credit.
and you're going, oh, I really want to use that worksheet, and you pull it off.
Hallway.
Do you keep the copyright information at the bottom, or do you go, oh, we don't need that?
Yep.
Toss that out the window.
I want to know how to say it. What cannot be used? Yeah, I guess whatever.
So, go ahead. Yep, you guys are good. You're good.
Part of it, and it's not issues like in your text or something like that, from a textbook or something like that. So if it's illegal, if you just make a photocopy of a certain parts of it.
Can you legally copy parts of it?
Yeah.
Should,
Copy parts of the book?
Yeah.
Yeah, just text or something like that.
You guys are students and you can't see. You need to blow up that,
Yeah.
like that one page.
I guess, is there anything that we can copy that is,
So you're not supposed to modify it.
is there anything not?
Yeah. That could be a tough question too. What do you do if you're a student?
So, I know I can stuff on like the teacher.
On that one page, how do you modify it?
Like along with that,
Yeah.
like you were saying, like
Yeah,
a lot of them have
honestly,
their
that would be a great way to do
but I
it.
know I'm using the fonts. Like, how is it?
All right, I'll give you about 1 more minute, and then that should be our 4 minutes. As I was saying to that group, think about the way you modify something for a student when you rip out that workbook page for the child who can't see, or the child who has a hard time writing, and you're trying to make the lines bigger, and what do you do? Because what can you legally do with it?
Right, that kind of goes, we were wondering if you could just copy it.
Oh, copy parts of it. How much can you copy?
Yeah.
That's like another good, how much of that part am I
Right.
legally allowed? All right, so let's regroup real quick. Just think about one thing, we'll go around, we'll do one thing we already know, and then each table can do one thing about what they want to know. So this table over here, what's something you already know about copyright?
You can copy small quantities of a book for educational purposes.
Exactly, you can copy small quantities, and I'm gonna let you know exactly what the limit is. Thank you. Go ahead, this team over here. What do you already know about copyright?
Well, I said that we know that you can't use certain pictures and photos online.
Yep, certain things are copyrighted online, and again, I'll let you know exactly what those are, what you can and can't use, and some freebies that I have for you as well. Go ahead.
We know it's illegal to copy a lot of things that are copyrighted, yes.
Yeah, and it is the law. And it's interesting because the law, for education, I was thinking about this. If you're a business, the law is very black and white. It's this. There is no gray area. This is the law. You have to follow it. But for education, it starts to tweak it a little, and it says, well, you can do this unlike a business, but you need to follow these other steps then. So copyright's real interesting in that effect. It doesn't always apply the same way to education as it would to an actual business that's making money off of using these images. So what's something that your table would like to know about copyright that I might be able to answer?
What we can and can't use.
What you can and can't use. Same thing, what you can and can't use.
How much of something you can use before it becomes illegal.
Illegal. Good. How much of something you want to be able to use before you hit that line and it's, no, that's illegal, you can't use that. Find a way to modify it. All right, let's take a look. So what is educational fair use? I'm going to pop it up there. It's the right to use portions, small portions, of copyrighted materials without permission for purposes of education, commentary, or parody. In other words, you have the right to use copyrighted materials as long as it's for educational purposes and follows 4 major guidelines. General fair use and guidelines, so as you're thinking about it, what are those guidelines? When determining if it's something that's fair use, this is what the court will use. What was the purpose and the character of your use? What's the nature of your copyrighted work? How much are you using of it? And what's the effect of the potential market? If you take it and you copy it and distribute it to multiple people, is it going to cause the publisher or the author to lose money? That's a big one that a lot of courts use, because if they're losing money, then you've just infringed on their right to receive that. So I chose 6 items that are most commonly used by CCSD employers of what you can make copies of. Books, as we said, illustrations, articles from newspapers or periodicals, internet sources, music, and certain movies, believe it or not. Teachers can take certain clips of movies, create like a hodgepodge of clips to show in their classroom. So for books, what can I do? Appropriate fair use says you can make a single copy of certain books for teacher use. So you're planning that lesson, you need a copy of something, there you go. There's your 1 copy for you to use. I can make a single copy for each student. So if you have 20 children, you have 20 copies plus your teacher copy for yourself. That's it. It's not supposed to be, well, I'll make 5 extra copies. Oh, and I didn't use them, so I'm going to go give them to Mrs. Smith, who's going to use them now. All right, you can copy a book, chapter, articles, and short stories or poems. But remember, it's got to be brief, and it's usually under 2,500 words. So you really have to be careful how much am I copying of a chapter. If I call it an excerpt, how much am I copying? And you can copy from books that specifically allow for duplication. I went to Lakeshore Learning, I bought a book, it specifically gives me copyright that says, yes, you can copy for yourself, you can copy for your students. It doesn't mean, though, that you're going to go and copy the entire book for another staff member and go, here, save $10, I copied the book for you. That would be illegal because it infringes on the rights of that author or that publisher to receive their money from the other teacher purchasing. What can't I do? Duplicate an entire class set of books in lieu of purchasing the materials. I didn't get enough workbooks, I need 5 more, I'm going to go duplicate the entire workbook. Duplicate consumable workbooks and start handing them out to your teacher friends or your neighbor next door who's a teacher in another school. Duplicate standardized testing materials. That's kind of a given in that area. And duplicate the same piece year after year, and I found this interesting. So this year I want to do a study on pumpkins. I find this wonderful worksheet. I want to save it, tuck it in my file, and use it again next year. I have permission to use it for 1 year. But if I'm going to use it 10 consecutive years in a row, be careful because the court could look at that and say, well, you knew you were going to use it. You knew you were going to use it the following year, the next year, the next year. How come you didn't get licensing permission? How come you didn't ask someone? How come you didn't get a copyright permission? So I didn't know that. I mean, how many times do you think about it? We save things to use year after year after year after year. And yet now we're finding out, well, if you're going to use it that many years, you really need to make an agreement with whoever owns that piece.
Yeah, but
Over here, what I can use for illustration.
Ms. Scholler,
Yes.
what if you bought the book?
If you bought it, that's a different story.
Oh,
This is, I copied it off the internet and I really like it. I want to use it this year. If you purchased a book or let's say teachers paid teachers, that would be a different case. This was, I was just randomly finding something on the internet and doing that.
All right.
Illustrations. I can copy 1 chart, illustration, picture, or photo for inquiry and informational prepping purposes. So I needed something, there was a picture of something I wanted to look at to prepare for my class lesson. I can copy it and use it for personal use. I can copy 2 excerpts of poetry or prose with illustration from a published book. Again, watch that 2,500 word count. And I can include any necessary copyright notices with copied images. So if you pull something off the internet, it's copyrighted, make sure you have that copyright notice at the bottom. I can't copy paste copyrighted images onto assignments or bulletin boards, etc. For example, I find this wonderful Peter Pan picture from the Disney website. I love it, I want to cut it out and use it on my bulletin board. Not a good idea, because it's copyrighted. Whoever drew that image wants the money to go along with it. So be very, very careful, especially if it's copyrighted from Disney. Use copyrighted images on my classroom website or blog without appropriate permissions or licenses. There's a lot of free places that will give you permission, and I've got a little bookmark for the end for you, where they will say, yeah, go ahead, use my images, use my music. Just, you know, it's free, but quote me underneath. Put my copyright information underneath. Articles, what can I use from newspapers, journals, or periodicals? Again, I can make one copy for each student if using it for a teaching activity. I go to the Las Vegas Review Journal, I'm teaching upper grades, I find a great article and story. Okay, well, I'm not going to buy an entire class set of newspapers, but I can use one article, a copy of one article, for each person in my class to teach that. Again, it must be less than 2,500 words. You can provide criticism and critique, depending on each court case and how you criticize or critique that person. If it ends up on the internet and they're not liking it, they might, you know, claim copyright infringement. Be careful about that. It doesn't really apply to us, but just in case you do an assignment where the student is critiquing an article, then you're letting it post it to a blog. Be careful with that. And again, include all necessary copyright information. I can't copy more than one article per student in the classroom. Copy an article that's more than 2,500 words. Copy more than one article from only one author. I'm thinking you're in the Las Vegas Review Journal. There's an editor, an editorial from a specific author you really like. You want to copy it every week. That's copyright infringement. Purchase the paper for your students. And then I can't, in one term, copy 4 or more articles from the same periodical. So I can't use the Las Vegas Review Journal every week in my classroom without purchasing it, because I can't keep copying from it. I can copy from various articles, periodicals, Time Magazine, whatever you choose to use, but it can't be more than 4 times in 1 year. Internet sources, I can use works made by the federal government workers, anything that's related to their employment. There are so many different museum sites that you can use, other federal government sites that you can use that are copyright free because it deals with federal government and their job. They're doing it for their job. I can use original works with copyright permission. For example, I did Teachers Pay Teachers. Most of us are using that. I can search and use public domain works. A lot of things posted in the public domain on the internet have no copyright. No one's specifically said, no, legally, this is mine, and you have to put my copyright information, you have to ask me permission. It's a great place to look. I can't scan and make digital copies of copyrighted materials. So I can't take that workbook that I purchased, that Ms. Chua had mentioned, what if I purchase this, and then take it, rip out the page, scan it, and store it on my computer to make room. You've now infringed on that copyright. How do you know that they don't have a digital copy already made that you could purchase? So that was interesting because we always take things, scan them, throw them out. Now it's my computer. I have more room in my filing cabinet. That's altering the piece of copyrighted material, and you can't alter it. All right, I can't scan and post images on public domains without permission for using them. So I can't scan and post it on my blog where my students can access it. I can't scan and slightly alter copyrighted materials and claim them as my own. For example, I scanned a worksheet, I don't like question 1, I cut it out. Look, 2 through 10 are still on there. You can't do that, you altered it. So, those are things you can and can't do. Music. Interesting on music. I can copy excerpts of printed music, 10% or less of the entire piece. I can copy emergency replacement copies as long as you go back. So let's say Miss Rayleigh's doing a performance, 3 of the copies get ruined somehow. A toddler got backstage, was ripping up the copies. 3 of them were lost. She can quickly go and make copies of the music the kids are singing as long as she goes back and after the performance purchases the 3 copies that she needs. And then I can simplify purchase copies so long as I keep the character intact. We're singing a song, I don't want to sing the entire Star Spangled Banner, we want to simplify it down. You can do that because you're not changing the words and you're not changing the character or intent of the song. Inappropriate, I can't add or change lyrics to purchase copies of music, so Miss Rayleigh couldn't erase the entire Star Spangled Banner, use the music behind it, and create all new words. Copy complete works of music to be used in place of purchasing copyrighted materials, or print copies and leave off copyright information. Such as, I printed these copies illegally, you won't know it's illegal because I cut the bottom copyright off. So see, who knows? People do know. And movies. I can show movies and clips and compilations if, one, they're educational and have relevance to my classroom and curriculum. Two, they contain that G rating, and that's that CCSP. Three, they have to be provided face-to-face. And number 4, letter D, the copy I have is considered lawful. I haven't gone to YouTube, burned it onto, or somehow streamed it onto my phone, plugged my phone into the computer, and burned it onto a DVD, which apparently I didn't know people have done before. You can burn things from YouTube. Here's a DVD. Here's part A of the movie Planes. Here's part B of the movie Planes. Show me my classroom. I can't, and then I have a little graphic here. This is my son. Now, for some reason, it turned sideways on this computer. I didn't have any problems at home, but there's always got to be one glitch. I can't stream movies into students' homes. So apparently there's a way to put things on your blog and allow kids to access it at their home and stream it into their home. I can't burn or stream unlawful copies of a movie, and I can't show a movie because I'm bored and I don't feel like teaching today. So for entertainment purposes only. Then I found something interesting, and I'm going to give it to you real quick. If you're considering Netflix, first determine if the movie is educational and connected to the curriculum. Speak with your administrator and then call Netflix and ask before you stream anything. And I checked that out because a few years ago at the district I was in, teachers were streaming straight off of Netflix into their classroom. And I thought, I wonder if that's even legal. So I happened to look it up. And Netflix is a very gray area. Apparently when you call them, they'll kind of, well, you know, think of it, you know, is it educational? They never really give you a straight, clear answer, so be real careful if you're streaming anything. And I'd say speak with Ms. Chua first about that. Alrighty, so quick discussion questions. Think about, compare 2 different ways people respect educational fair use regulations and copyrighted materials. What do? I want to use this, it's copyrighted. How do I use it the appropriate way? What would you do? Let's take a minute, talk about it in your group. What do you do to respect that? Do you take the copy and go, no one's seeing me, I'm going to copy it anyway and hand it out to everybody? What do? Let's talk about it in your group real quick. Give me 30 seconds to do that.
You make copies for what you need. You don't make extra copies. Get permission, yeah.
And that's really the basic. You can get permission, find out who it belonged to, ask them, type a quick email. All right, here we go. So go ahead, this group over here, I happen to make it here. What do you think you do? What's the biggest thing? Ask permission. Yeah, I mean, think about it. If you put something on the internet and it was copyrighted and you worked hard to create that, do you really want people just going copy paste? Oh, I'll just enlarge it. It's a little blurry, no one will notice. Print, print, print. Meanwhile, it's on teachers, pay teachers for $2. You know, that $2 adds up, so ask permission. Generate the proper approach a teacher should take to determine whether a copyrighted item to be used for the classroom instruction falls under the guidelines of educational fair use. I have this wonderful book, and I want to share an excerpt from it. How do I know? What do I do? What were those 4 things I should go look for? Think about what they were. You can talk about it in your group. What were those 4 things called? Start with a G. The educational fair use. Alrighty, so what would we be checking? Go ahead, that team over there. What would we check? The educational,
General fair use guidelines.
the guidelines. Check those 4 guidelines. Does it fall under what the court would use to determine if it was fair use? How does your original interpretation of educational fair use and copyright regulations compare now to your current awareness? Do you know more now, a little bit more than what you walked in with? Were you surprised by something? Oh, wait a minute, I can't use this year after year if I'm pulling it off the internet? You know, and think about what Ms. Chua had said, but what if you purchased that book? And then it becomes a different story under copyright. So, how does your original interpretation change? Go ahead, talk about it in your group for 30 seconds. What's different that you didn't know? So is there something that you didn't know that you now are like, wow, I didn't know that, now I know. What was that? What did you learn that you didn't know?
So we have some anyway, but.
Probably the year,
Yeah, I didn't know that one either. Yeah. I can't use that, yeah. Interesting. Alrighty, so I'm gonna let this table share over here. So what was the one thing that you learned that you didn't know before?
Yeah, the year after year.
Yeah.
That's easy to fly over your head.
In fact, I do a turkey thing where we're thankful and it's coming up. I didn't know you couldn't use it year after year. I mean, how many times? Go back, get that permission. If you know you're on your 5th year of using it, get that permission for it. In your opinion, do you feel though that schools and districts and educators should be held accountable for copyright infringement if found guilty? Justify your response. This was an argument my husband and I had. I disagree. I don't think for certain things that we should be held accountable. My husband, who's not a teacher though, who has things that he's worked on and put on the internet, has said, yeah, you should. I need that money. I've made that product. My hard-earned time and effort has been put into it. So though, as you as a teacher, what do you feel? Do you feel we should be held accountable? If so, why? If not, why? Go ahead, take 30 seconds to talk about it.
Yeah, and especially if you're educated on it like this, where you know what's legal, you know what's not legal. I can see if you've probably been trained on it, groups I didn't know, but the fact that if you have a training, that's what but maybe the consequences should be that. Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. So they're going to go home and use their parent to say, here,
Exactly.
all right, let's go back to it real quick. So, interesting, this group was interesting. Can this group share? Would you mind sharing?
How many, when we're using something off of the internet year after year, we're using it because it's beneficial to the students in this education. But how many of our students are going to take it and reproduce it or give it to their parents so their parents can produce it?
Exactly.
The likelihood of that is nil.
Exactly. If you think about it too, the only way, I mean, the most that a parent might do is, my student got 100 on this, click and with social media, paste it to social media. Again, that's something you'd have to be careful with. If it goes on social media, someone's bound to find it and see it. You don't know what their response is going to be. But yeah, I mean, it's for educational purposes, but then again, there's that other side going, but I created that, that's mine, use it fairly. So it is definitely an argument with two sides. All right, real quick, I have some tablets on your table. If you can, and then some of them I already started logging into Kahoot. I've got 3 questions, let's see, and we're gonna quickly get you out of here soon. So log into Kahoot for me, and the code is 566081. 566081. Oh, 566.
Oh my God, what's the website?
Kahoot, K-A-H-O-O-T. Let me get to it.
Kahootit. K-A-H-O-O-T-I-T.
K-A-H-O-O-T.
Oh, it's 2 A's,
Kahootit.
And we'll see if we get to the game. Five, six, six, oh, 8, 1. Yes. Oh, no. 5, 6, 6, oh, 8, 1. Well, we might not be able to Kahoot then, and that's okay. Check. I'll do for the Kahoot then, challenges and obstacles happen. I will go back, if I can get the Kahoot up, I'll just send you the number and you can log on. Should be able to play the game at any time. It's just 3 quick questions. One of the questions was though, and I do want to ask it, you know that what a teacher is doing is illegal. You have a teacher, he or she is going, I really like this, I don't want to pay for it, it's on Teachers Pay Teachers. I'm going to take right-click copy, and then I'm going to take it to PowerPoint, I'm going to save it, open it up, and then start printing it out. So what do? How many think about it? How many of us would be like, oh, it's your business, you're taking the chance and walk away? What's another suggestion you could give them instead of just walking away? Pay for it. I don't want to pay the $2.
Ask if they ask permission.
Did you ask permission? Tell the person I don't have the $2. That's a different story, but I don't have the $2. Is there another alternative site or source you could give me that might be free? But yeah, pay for it. It's $2. If you don't want to pay for it, find an alternative site, find an alternative source. Maybe email that person on Teachers Pay Teachers. Say, hey, I really want to use this. Do you have something that's free, that my budget isn't big? What can I use? So that was actually one of the questions on there. All right, then I'm going to click out of Kahoot, and I'm going to give you your last thing. Let's go back into this one. And I'm going to put that up there because there's a cool little thing in the attic. Just a little sound bite. So in the end, in your packet there on the table, your little bag, there's some sticky notes. If you could each take one sticky note for me while I'm flipping to the last side. You don't have to put your name on it. If you really want to, that's fine too. Keep in mind the 4 basic elements in your fair use and guidelines. Always provide that copyright information. Check copyright licensing agreements, especially on the web. And then when in doubt, ask for help. Chances are your librarian knows the answers. Chances are administration knows the answers. Or chances are a buddy teacher knows the answers. And your quick little exit ticket for me, please. Describe one way that you will apply information you learned from this professional development presentation to your own classroom and teaching styles. What are you going to use? Are you going to really go on that internet, copy, paste, enlarge, and print it out, even though you know it's not the right thing to do? Based on what you learned, what can you take away and use in your room? I have a parking lot right here if you place your questions there. And then right above it are some free bookmarks for you to take with free resources. Music clips, videos, animation, anything that you could use. And oops, now it doesn't want to play over here. Where'd it go? See if I can get my, oh there he is. And that's our end. So we know copyright is over for now. Go ahead, once you're finished, references if you want to see where I got some of my information from. And believe it or not, this can also be found under Curriculum Engine. I have the step-by-step guidelines if you're ever interested and want to find it on Curriculum Engine. Go ahead, post your answers there. Enjoy your day. Thank you so much for being here with me. Thank you.